What's going on, my creative collective? Welcome to another lesson for A Course in Creativity. This one is called Mixing Concrete in Sippy Cups. So this lesson in particular is looking at sense making and sensing with, right? I've touched on thinking with as a way of working through different concepts, and especially with energy, because it can be so abstract, right? So now I'm getting into this sensing with. What is sensing with? Well, this is, it's something I was thinking about last night, and instead of thinking with, moving into sensing with to engage our bodies, right? To engage the wonder of them. So this lesson in particular, we're gonna read. There's a book that I read, of course. There's a book that I read and would recommend. It's here, The Spell of the Sensuous by David Abram. Now, this is more environmental or ecological philosophy, but there's an important part in this book that illuminates the way that truth can be a way of sense making. A truth is a way of sense making and sensing with, right? Related to forgiveness and relieving ourselves and removing guilt and blame. Relieving ourselves not just in a temporary way, but in a way that gets to the root of the blame and guilt that we carry, and how often these are associated with truths. Oh, so often. So I'm going to read that quote to you. I'll put it on the screen though so that you can read along with me. But on page 9, the chapter is The Ecology of Magic. So good. Only by temporarily shedding the accepted perceptual logic of his culture can the sorcerer hope to enter into relation with other species on their own terms. Only by altering the common organization of his senses will he be able to enter into a rapport with the multiple non-human sensibilities that animate the local landscape. Then further down, to take this one step further, it says, magic then, in perhaps its most primordial sense, is the experience of existing in a world made up of multiple intelligences. The intuition that every form one perceives, from the swallow swooping overhead to the fly on a blade of grass, and indeed the blade of grass itself, is an experiencing form, an entity with its own predilections and sensations, albeit sensations that are very different from our own. Now, this, aside from just, it's exquisitely written. Oh, it's so good. But so read it, but beyond those quotes. But I thought about truth in this way because this book also talks about language as a code that we use to interpret the world. And I think about truth in this sense as well, right? To hold these two up and kind of compare them, it offers a beautiful emplacement of this concept of truth in the way that I'm talking about it here, so that it lands in our energy and can clear things, right? So truth then is sort of a code that we begin to use and assess ourselves in the world. And there can be truths that are liberating to speak, truths that are liberating to experience. And then what about the capital T truths that we assign that status of capitalization, that we're only ever meant to be lowercase t truths? Not in a hierarchical sense, but in a worlding sense, right? In a worlding sense where the capital T is the way that we create an entire mythology around this, but then the lowercase t is where it was actually meant to belong. So, I think about dangerous truths that were related to a lot of things like the Me Too movement. Those were dangerous truths, not because they were inherently dangerous, because they were speaking truth to power, because they were speaking truth to what was happening. So those folks, and I can say this from my own experience, right, that I really had to process the trauma of between 2019 and 2020. There are dangerous truths we hold in our bodies, right? We lodge them, we don't speak them, we don't put them into the world. We don't allow the fullness of ourselves to be expressed outwardly. And this can happen even if we feel like we're not worthy, or, for me, more recently, it was, having a pretty good body image before, and then going through all of these steps with transitioning and seeing how things shift. And even with my autoimmune issues that I had a couple years ago, that, doctors say, well, you should lose weight. It's like, but that's the model, right? Even for my top surgery, or my TT surgery, or Titus deletus, whichever one you want to use. But for that surgery, doctors said that because my BMI was higher, regardless of the fact that I run, regardless of all of these ways that I enjoy my body and feel comfortable in it, this weird numbering came to define where I could go get the surgery done, what possibilities were open to me because of that. So it came in this weird way lately where I had to just give my head a shake and pull back and be like, that is a lowercase t that belongs to someone other than myself. Like, right? So it's those ways that it can creep in this just the most ordinary of ways. The most ordinary of ways. But for folks who experience things through things like the Me Too movement, truths are dangerous for some people. Truths can be really dangerous because the truth of your experience of something, it doesn't just conflict with what someone's experience was. It can directly allude to harm done. It can directly be harm done. It can show that, right? So your truth can become dangerous, and it can be it can become something that you have to hide in your body, right? I experienced it where in 2015 and 2016, when I worked in a corporate environment, I had that experience, right? I had that experience where it was not great. But what I found more telling was that after the fact was the harder part, right? So the truth was articulated, and that person lost their job because the evidence was overwhelming that there was something going on that was not right. And so that took place and whatnot. But even to this day, so that happened in 2016. It is 2022. And people that I used to work with still try to contact me. They still show up where I work. They still hang around. Why, right? The truth is dangerous for some folks. And that's their own path and journey to walk and deal with, and certainly not mine, right? Truths can be dangerous. So we store them in our body. We store them in our body because we feel that we are undeserving of speaking them. We are unworthy of articulating them. And this is where people can get ideas of what authenticity is twisted, because your reality is not something that should ever be negated by another person. What you experience is true. What you experience is truth. Now, when we pull back and look at objectivity, it can get very nuanced and complex. And this isn't to neglect that at all, right? Because I know at the beginning, it's like, well, how can you have objective reality? And then we're talking about the nuances of truth. There is complexity with everything on this planet. It's a both and place, right? It's a both and place. But when it comes to truth as a sense, we can turn it off, or at least turn off the flow so that we don't have access to it. And what that then does is it causes us to be in a discordant relationship to trust, because it's hard for us to trust when we are in a compromised relationship to our truths, right? When we're compromising ourselves, when we're compromising the speaking of our truths, for what, for whom, why, right? For me, the journey was a lot of accepting not just what happened to me, but then talking about it out loud. We can come to believe that our body is the container of dangerous truths, because if we understood our power, that might be a danger for those who would thrive in the absence of our authenticity. It might be a danger to those who have done harm to our body, like physical, literal harm, right? To articulate your truth might be dangerous to those who have tried to, lie about who you are and get other people to believe it. Your truth it can be a very dangerous thing. And instead of honoring that and honoring yourself, this isn't just what you want in the world. This is who you are in the world. We can turn our bodies into a container that believes that we are not worthy of articulating our truths. So we become a container for other people's lowercase t truths. And that can become the capital T truth for us. That can become the language with which we receive and that we encode the world. And so our worth becomes encrypted in something that is completely inaccessible to us, because we are speaking one language and we are sensing the world with another. And that sense is one that is intended to take away worth from our being, from the fiber and fabric of our being. And the real story here is that when you believe that the truths in you are dangerous, when you believe your body is a dangerous container, you believe that you are that. That's who you become. You become that. particularly hard truths, can cause us to oversimplify things because we want to understand, but we don't ever get to the root of fully believing that we are worthy of the understanding, or so worthy of the understanding, or it hits a place where we can't, there's a dissonance. We cannot hold the truth, capital T truth, and the lowercase t truth that we've ascribed to ourselves and our bodies, right? It becomes increasingly difficult, not just in a conceptual way, but in a real, this is how I treat myself way. This is how I believe about myself in action. These are the habits that illuminate my true feelings about myself. And we fragment ourselves. We break it into little pieces, break ourselves into these pieces because we can't hold the whole truth. And the truth is nuanced at times, right? The truth is nuanced. I'm an organized person for the most part. I will say, like, one of the things that I that it just is my thing that I know bugs other people sometimes is that I will do laundry and leave it in the basket for like 2 to 3 days, and I will just live out of the basket, right? Complex, nuanced truths, organized, but that's not true of organization. That's right. So those are the sort of complexities and the nuances of it. So we can use those experiences to justify the capital T truths that we sense the world with and sense ourselves with as well. So we can use those to then split apart the things that might come to us that are really good, that are connected to the lowercase t truths. Right. I've been experiencing this with my body and transitioning and just, like doctor's appointments. And in the past few years, it's been kind of wild to me because I never really had a hate on for my body. I actually felt okay. Like I liked running, not because it was to be something else. It was because I just loved the feeling of being in my body. It was such a beautiful feeling to me. But appointments with doctors through autoimmune stuff and all of that, it's like they looked at weight as the cause of things when perhaps it was more a holistic stress that was being placed upon myself by me that needed to be addressed, right? So it was this weird thing. And even, looking at top surgery and things like that now, because the number, the BMI reflects one specific thing, it doesn't matter that I can, run a ton or do these things. It doesn't matter how fit I actually am. It doesn't matter. Your whole being becomes reduced to this number. It becomes reduced to this number that is, well, you're too big a person to have normal surgery. Which is ridiculous. So you're too big a person to have normal surgery at this clinic. So you have to go to a special one because your BMI is just above the range. And I understand that there are medical reasons why there may need to be more supports. But it was just encoded into these things. So these truths, right? These truths that start to silence you, that start to take your light and go, shh, don't speak about it. And they can silence your light, and not just you as in the you speaking what's important to you or what's relevant to you or what means something to you. Truths can also mean the things that you are expressing through your body, right? So we can turn our bodies into these containers that it's almost like a container of a little bit of darkness, right? We can turn our bodies into these containers, and then we subconsciously start to believe that we are the container. And that's where this can really start to become a way of sensing the world. How can we perceive forgiveness? How can we hear or, read the language of forgiveness and light in the world if we are using truth as a sense-making thing in our bodies that disconnects us from not just the lowercase t truths for us, but the capital T truths that are, part of this core in the world around us that we face all the time. And we can build ourselves out of what it is that we want to experience. We can build ourselves out of worthiness. We can build ourselves outside of being enough. We can build ourselves outside of the light. And the light just meaning that, the light that you would otherwise know if you were insistent upon seeing yourself and your body as something more than a container. More than a container for somebody else's lowercase t truths trying to masquerade as capital T's in your life. you can start to believe that you are the darkness in the truth. So these truths relate also to how you perceive your light, where you find it in the world around you, and how that builds up to a capital T, how that builds up to a lowercase t. Where do you see your light outside of you? And this isn't to say because it exists within you, but it's the way that you project it outward that tells you a lot about where it sits within you and whether you're letting it shine in you, And when it comes to trauma, we can convince ourselves that we are unqualified to tell the truth about something because of the way that we feel other people might react when we in the telling, right? We can hide these things, and certainly there are ways that we have to watch how we tell truths, because it can come from a place within us of wanting to harm another, or to if we haven't processed something sufficiently, we can use truth telling as a way to jab back in like an avenging or vengeful way, which isn't that's not that doesn't liberate you, doesn't honor you. It doesn't. I think about how we can use this in relationships. I had to see this in myself, where I went through an experience in 2015, 2016 that was connected to the Me Too movement. We'll just put it that way. But that time, I felt like that truth was I couldn't tell it. I couldn't share it because I just felt like it was, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad, but I just felt like it tainted me, like it marked me. Yeah, it was quite interesting to see, because you see not just how many people are committed to the lie, but how many people are committed to you not speaking your truth. Not in a conspiratorial way, but you can really get it misconstrued and see the truth as dangerous because it lives in you. And then over time, subconsciously, you can begin to believe that you are dangerous because you have a truth. You are dangerous because that's the truth of what happened to you. You can believe that you are dangerous because you can confuse that truth with who you are if it doesn't find expression in places. So then you get into a place of wanting validation. You need to be validated because that truth is so hard to carry. That truth is so difficult to hold with you. And there's a book called The Bridge Across My Back or something along those lines. I'll put it here. But that book, the title of it alone, had me really seeing myself in that way, that the body becomes a bridge, right? The body becomes a bridge to these truths because the speaking of them, if they're dangerous for others, or you can't speak them because it will impact such and such a thing. Well, if it will impact it in that way, perhaps that should be the case. And we can use situations in our life to justify or to get approval to tell this truth, like we are worthy of holding this truth about our life and ourselves within us. And I would imagine, I couldn't articulate it with this clarity, when I was first coming out when I was 16, but it kind of is similar. Like you look to relationships, to friendships, to jobs, to situations in your life as vehicles that will approve of you and allow you to just be you, to just have this truth. That is the essence of being seen and validated, right? But it's like you can see yourself as this darkness that is just not the case. So when that happens, if you don't address these things, this is where trauma can really get stuck in the body. Trauma can get lodged in the body and become it can take a wrecking ball, not just to your sense of self and your self-worth. It can take a wrecking ball to the potential for your happiness. It's like we build this secret around it. And it takes on almost this mythos internally. And it just doesn't need to be that way. So we can use all of these different relationships and jobs and things like that through which we seek that approval to tell the truth, to have this truth in us. So situations that we might use for connection and really getting to know someone and emotional intimacy, we can see as vehicles for these truths to prove something to us. So we never really get to connect. We desperately need it. We might desperately need it. Usually when there's that kind of truth living in you, you do. I'm very grateful that at the time that happened, I had tremendous support around me and friends who were incredible. So, and even now that's the case. The pandemic has changed how we connect, but still, there is that presence there, but we desperately need connection in those moments, and we deny ourselves that because we're using that wound as a way to relate to others. We're using that part of us that just feels uncomfortable to relate through. And this doesn't just relate to truth. This is also the language through which we experience the world. These are truths about ourselves. These aren't just truths about things that happened, or, these are truths about our bodies, about, our orientations, our gender identities, to use ones that I have experienced and I'm using here as an example, right? But they can relate to so many different things for you. Your truth is not just the way you relate to the world. It's the language through which you translate your experiences. It is the language through which you translate not just what has happened to you, but what might be. People will also relate to you through those wounds too, right? There's a book by Robert Augustus Masters here, and one of the chapters talks about eroticizing wounds. I highly recommend people read that book, and specifically that chapter. This is how we can relate to other people through our wounds. Because the truth is almost, it's like a language. It's an emotional receptor, right? Most people associate truth with your throat energy center, but I associate it with your heart space, because that's where you can really hear, right? It's not just about hearing here. It's not just about your senses in that way. It goes beyond it. That's where truth is a sense unto itself, right? Truth is a sense unto itself because it allows you to hear that you're worthy, that it wasn't your fault, that you're more deserving than you know, that your body is indeed beautiful, regardless of the numbers that doctors and everything, this I say to that whole system, the reality of your worth is astounding, and it will be hard for you to comprehend if you're existing in that place of wounding and then relating outwards from it, as opposed to relating from a place of connection, because the extent of your worthiness will be the extent that people can come in. And that doesn't just dishonor you, but it also doesn't honor them either, because it means that they can't express themselves fully in connection with you. It means that they can't, they can't relate to you from a place of joy. They have to relate to you through your wounding. And that's kind of how trauma bonding gets in, but it's also just sometimes the way that we operate and relate, right? And what does truth mean in that context? Well, sometimes it can just be saying to someone, I know that today's not going to be the be all and end all, but it was a really shitty day and I just need a hug. I need to cry about it. I can feel it. I know I need to cry about it. I need to release this. That sometimes is truth. It can be, the phrase I think is like death by 1,000 paper cuts, and those 1,000 paper cuts can seem so insignificant, but how do you tend to them, and how do you tend to yourself in the process? How do you stay true to yourself? And staying true to yourself is sometimes just recognizing that it's a really bad day. Sometimes staying true to yourself is allowing yourself to cry, but like not crying in the shower, not crying when other people can't help you, like actually having a moment of release where other people see you and can hold you and can say, I know that right now doesn't feel okay, but it will be. Just let it be not okay. Feel anxious. Be where you are. Don't run from that. So the truth then is this sensory way that we experience all of these things. And how on earth can we allow forgiveness in? How on earth can we allow light in for ourselves if we have a very discordant relationship with truth? It's really difficult to. It's difficult to. I don't want to say impossible, because then that is to deny that it can happen. Right? And if we know anything, that the light finds a way, right? The light finds a way. But truth is a sense unto itself. That's how you perceive the magic in the world. That's how you perceive your own magic. And, we may be surrounded by people and a culture or things that reward the way that we can take lowercase truths and turn them into uppercase truths. But those can sometimes become demands that we place upon ourselves. And that's usually how we can tell that that's not a capital T truth that really is honoring our heart. We know that because then it places demands on us. Be mindful of the capital T's and the lowercase t's and where they are placed in your life, but more importantly, where they place you and where those things land in your body. Because you are worth more than connecting to the world through those paper cuts or deeper wounding. You are worth more than you probably understand. and not because of the things that you make in the world or the things that you do or the potential that you have, but just because you're you, and that's who you are. And even I've struggled with that in terms of my body lately, like I said, to calm myself in, stay in a very clear relationship to what that lowercase t truth is that's trying to tell you it should become a capital T in your world. So that is your lesson, my darlings. If this resonated, please like and subscribe. It helps me to grow this channel, and I would love to have you here. There are other ways you can connect with me on the channel as well, so do check that out. But if this is where we part, I hope that wherever this finds you on the time-space continuum, morning, afternoon, or night, it finds you very, very well, my lovelies. Take care.